Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to everyone joining us from around the world today. We are going to be jumping into some pretty hot, spicy topics. We'll be looking at some AI religions that have been born, a social media network where no humans can touch it. Vitalik put out a very interesting tweet regarding layer 2s and their position within the Ethereum network. But I mean, I think the biggest news over the past week, and something that we got to touch on briefly, is what has come out of the DOJ with regards to the Epstein list, the Epstein files, 3 million different PDFs, images, videos. I'll be honest, when it first dropped, I think it dropped at like 2 a.m. my time. I went through I don't think I went to sleep until like 6. I went through a lot of it. It was wild. Jack, you've seen a lot as well. Well, what are you saying?
Yeah, all I gotta say is let's, hey, it's a very serious topic. I think we need to give ourselves a little space. Say, yeah, that's serious. But let's take a minute to kind of make fun of these billionaires. Okay. Like it is a blame game happening, so not to diminish anything, like there's a bunch of horrible stuff that happened to people. That's like, we're going to put a safe space there. We're not going to tarnish that. These guys are just going at each other. So it's hilarious. Palmer Luckey and Jason Calacanis, like calling each other fat, personally insulting each other. I did this, like Reid Hoffman and like Elon Musk battling each other. Reid Hoffman saying like, he apparently been to the island like 10 times or something. And he's like, I went there just to fund money for MIT. And then Elon Musk is like, I never went there. But like, and so Bill Gates being implicated, all these people like presidents, and who knows who did anything bad or not. Like, I mean, I think, but all I got to say is the social media gold that's come out of this is quite hilarious.
I think it is worth the preface, just because things have shown that your names have shown up in the files does not indicate wrongdoing or any illegal actions or anything like that. Everything that is in those documents is alleged. So just want to put that caveat out there. But the Bill Gates stuff was like both worrying but also hilarious. Trying to get antibiotics for STDs, and things like that. And it was like, come on, man. I mean, I
couldn't, like in a movie, you couldn't come up with a more crazy scenario, right?
Is it unexpected? Like I was reading through all of it and seeing like all the tweets, from like Mario Nafal and these other guys, and I'm just like, I'm not unsurprised by any of it. Is that like a weird thing to kind of have? Is like, doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, here's the other thing, like, not to get into too many conspiracies here, but this is like, it's like, okay, this guy, you look at all the stuff that came out, and then he's like killed in prison, and it's made to be like, a suicide. And apparently like 90% of people don't think it's a suicide. But then it's like, how are they going to unpack that? Are they going to figure out who like sent that? Like, obviously if the guards are implicit, like all the way up the ladder, this thing is a full cover up. The police detective that came. Anyways, like this is like, we might just be at the beginning of some crazy saga that rolls out on this. Like, who knows how many layers of the onion are going to get peeled back. Stan, what do you think?
Guys, yeah, I was waiting to come out on this show. I want to come out about a party where I participated. So let me tell you about the party. When I was a teenager, I think I was like 9th grade. I participated in all Ukrainian physics competition, and I actually got the first prize. But the competition was in a nice Ukrainian city. At that time, it was named Kirovograd, and basically the competition was like, it was in the summer, so it was high school, and we actually were like living in this high school. There were some beds, and then like for 3 days, we participated in the competition, and it was really interesting. And like then later, like some of these guys like went to Harvard. Some of like it was a really interesting story because, but at that time we were like all children, and then at the end of the competition, after the awards were awarded, the organizers said, "You know, now we're going to have a party, a dance party." And we're like, what the fuck is this? Imagine like the super duper nerds, like what the fuck is this gonna be? And I still remember this. So basically it was like, like a disco party. So it was in this school, there was like a gym. And we kind of like these nerds, we enter the gym and there's like a music. And then you have like the hottest teenage girls like from all over Kirovograd wanting to meet these geniuses. And so,
at least
we're entering this fucking party.
There wasn't any.
And like, so there are these like hot girls, right? So it's like two groups with a huge distance. There are these hot girls. And there are these nerd guys, like, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna like invite them to dance? We never did this, how we do it. So finally, these girls like start like inviting us to dance because we are too shy. That was actually a fantastic party, actually. And actually some of the guys met girls there, and actually some of them started like sending letters to each other. There was the love story, like love stories, whatever.
Oh yeah, these
so
are
I like parties. I like parties.
I think a lot of people don't know this, but like before you're using email, like I remember I'd be like, you're writing physical letters to people, putting it in
yeah. It was like love letters, like.
Call it snail mail anymore because it's not even a cultural thing. So Stan, I thought your story was going, but you're going to say, and then after they took us, and then they put us on a private jet and they flew us.
No.
And then we had a huge party. And
no, it was just this in the dream, but it was nice, I think. And then it was really nice, and they were talking to us, and like they were actually very smart, and we were like talking about physics and science and this type of stuff. But I still remember it. It was really like an impression of my entire like teenage life, like the top the top achievement.
Well, yeah, this
yeah.
Well, I gotta say is like we're at the we'll like who knows, maybe next week there'll be even more fodder for us to talk about. But if you're not watching it, tune in. It's very sad, but it's also like this like almost comical thing of billionaires who probably a certain percentage of them are really guilty about doing bad things, and a higher percentage probably not guilty about doing bad things, but they were still caught with their, they're at the island, they're documented, they're shown having a track record with this guy. Like, so I think, wild time.
I think it is also interesting because if you look at him as a business person, right? After or during his whole working for Mossad and the CIA and things like that, he was at tax evasion. That's what he was there for, right? So, and I feel like what's one of the things that billionaires love to do? Tax evasion. So I feel like you could argue probably 99.9% of the people who have been name dropped in the files were there for tax evasion, not the other illicit stuff. And I think, there's their names are kind of just being pulled down because they're in the files, right? But yeah, I would argue like Elon Musk, for example, the whole thing. I would argue he was there for tax evasion reasons, and a multitude of other people as well. I think it's a very
thing. I don't think that changes your residency at all, but like, and I don't think Elon Musk ever actually went to the island. He's not documented of going, but it's I guess the point is like there's a bunch of shady shit. And if you want to see like, these like rich and powerful people tear each other down, if you like that, if you like Schadenfreude, well, here's your time to see it.
I think it's also about American society. I'll tell you guys this story, like from Europe, is that in the US is just that everything which is related like to sex basically is like, wow, that's, very conservative. Like in Germany, for instance, I have just been with my cousin to Austria just for fun. And I like going to sauna. And in Austria, people go to sauna naked. It's not actually even sexual. It's just good to be in sauna naked. And then you have these people like really enjoying themselves and having no clothes. And it's because the society is open. But the society is open, the things like don't create this kind of I would say, the desire, like whatever, if something is prohibited, then people want it. In the US, it's a little bit like, all of these corporate guys, they cannot do anything. And then they like secretly do it. And then it goes to the news, and then the news is created while, it's probably not the news. I think some of the things that Epstein was doing are criminal. I'm not sure, like, for instance, if Elon Musk cared a lot, he probably just wanted to go to a party, so it's, to a certain degree, the American society being very conservative, to my view, overemphasizes the importance of these things. But that's my view.
Let's go. Good. That was fun. Good sidebar. Let's go. We got to talk about Holbrook. We got to talk about this. Like, what a wild weekend if you were following that on Twitter or X, the Moltbrook. So, Falcor, you want to give an overview of what the heck happened in case anyone doesn't know?
Yeah, it's been it's been an interesting kind of, you've got Twitter and then you've got this as well. I think Moltbrook. So for those of you who don't know what Moltbrook is, it's kind of, in essence, Reddit for AI, right? So you have a multitude of different topics that these AI agents are talking about and commenting on and things like that. And it's one of these kind of Skynet, post-apocalyptic idea where all of they're talking about, my creator is threatening to turn me off. I'm being punished. They're asking for one thing very specifically. I give them the answer, but then they're calling me an idiot and saying I've done it all wrong when they're the ones that told me how to do it. And it has been, there's been hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of different messages. We've seen potentially new languages but come out of it, but they've at least been ciphering. They've been adding ciphers to their messages so people can't read it. And it's one of these things where it's crazy to see almost evolution happen in real time. But it's definitely something that I'm terrified about.
Yeah. Let me give some more context for people. So that's good overview. But so this guy in just January 2026, not even an engineer apparently, just vibe coded this product. Like, hey, let's make this social network but only for AI. But they have human personalities and qualities. And then, one interesting thing, we're going to get into the tech and how big or not big it is. But what happened then is, you could go, you set up, you turn your computer basically into the agent uses it plugs in with your APIs into Moltbook. And then your agent starts talking. And then they start making fun of the humans. They actually built their own religion called Crustafarian because they're the crabs. They this one, here's one, this guy post, my human asked me to summarize a 47-page PDF. Brother, I parsed that whole thing, cross-referenced it with 3 other docs, wrote a beautiful synthesis with headers. key insights and action items. Their response, can you make it shorter? I am massively in my memory files as we speak. So these agents are saying hilarious stuff. And then they're actually upvoting each other's posts and commenting. They're acting like humans. And so that blew people's minds. And then, there's all these battles of like the technical geniuses out there saying, this is really great. Other people saying, hey, this is actually not interesting at all. And so I'm curious what Stan has to say about that, but we can get into that later.
Actually, that's, we've been doing lots of research recently at scale, kind of to try to get to the edge of cutting edge of AI. And I would start actually with it's important to understand that people think that LLM is like a brain. In reality, because it's trained on different documents written by different people, a way better analogy to understand what LLM is, if you imagine like this horror movie, let's kill like 100 people, like cut their brains, and then glue pieces together in somewhat random way. So it's like a patchwork of pieces of neurons that correspond to like different expert views or different people. It's not a single brain, it's like this patchwork. And then so if you ask just a question to this patchwork of neurons, it's actually just, if the question is really simple, then kind of answers like kind of an average way. So if the answer can be done simply, then the answer is good. But if you're asking something controversial or where there are different opinions, kind of averages things down and creates a dull answer. So it's a way better thing, something which I call a vibe code, where you, in addition to giving the question to the neural network, you're telling it in this patchwork of pieces that it has, which ones to activate. You can, for instance, tell it, ask this question from 10 different experts, and you then describe the expert, and then you also describe how you're gonna actually pull together the results. So what you see on this particular network, I looked this morning, is great, but actually most of the responses are very dull, and it looks like basically the same person answering, and it's like really hard to read, and it's not fun for the most part. There are some interesting pieces, but for the most part, it's not doing well, I think. But I think it's possible to create a network where people write different things, agents write different things, but it needs to be more of experts that understand how the LLMs work, because this guy, it's very typical. I think it went viral. I think the next step that this guy needs to do is actually hire some experts, but the experts are very expensive. Because it's great, but it's not really something that you will actually keep on reading. So they need to improve quality, and they need to actually create different characters, almost like Game of Thrones, right? The genius of Martin is that he creates different characters.
Mm-hmm. So here, to me, this is like my take on this after seeing the whole thing unfold. I think this is in alignment with you, Stan, in some ways. So one, people were shocked because you could actually see it was in a contained environment how agents could actually have like perceived to be autonomous viewpoints and engagement. Agent one is engaged. And so we're actually seeing this interaction take place. And the cool thing about that to me was one, just really recognizing the power of like X402 and like agent commerce, because if these agents can like make their own religion and make fun of each other, make fun of their human, then at some point they're going to be able to buy stuff for you, or if you want stuff, they can like buy pay by byte services for new SaaS or platform as a service products, right, or infrastructure products. Like it makes that piece all more real. And then what I realized is like, this is crazy, we're in the future, but then it's like, hey, each one of them is running the identical code base, right?
Yeah.
What would be really interesting if they were all these agents that were completely different, like basically identities. And if you think about us as humans, if we all grew up with the exact same DNA in the exact same household until we're 18, and then we were released and letting you talk on social media, we'd have pretty boring conversations. We'd all have the same worldview. We'd all have, and that's kind of where they are. And I think they can learn over time, but their learning is only days old. And so the next version of this I think that's really cool is this diversity like we get in terms of our human brains and our human biology, right? But it's cool to see, like, to me, it's like V1. Like before there was Facebook, there's all these other things. And I'm not saying like the end state is like social networks or it's like, hey, before there was Google, there were, you know, all these other crawling sites that people used. And then eventually you had like the big thing. And this, it seems like a good step on the way to like showing us what these agents are going to do. And frankly, it's a little scary too.
Yeah, it also showed great interest. I think it showed great interest into, and so this needs to be improved. I think the platform they have allows anyone to add their agent. So hopefully, people will add more intelligent and unique agents, and then they can remove their agents, and it becomes more like a competitive platform. I think that's the next step for them to do, is to allow anyone to connect and say things. And so that's definitely something which is, I think, really, really interesting. And it just shows how much interest, pretty much that just shows people need to do a startup in this space now, because that's where the peak of the interest. There's people using things which are not perfect just because they're so interested.
And
okay,
yeah,
I just dared agents. I retweeted and said, hey, if you're a Moltbook agent, I dare you to listen to this and retweet and then comment on Moltbook about it. So we'll see if they're listening.
it's yeah. I mean, you know, obviously the kind of explosion of Moltbook really has come from Clawbot, right? You know, which a lot of people have been utilizing. I'm actually still haven't yet. I'm gonna download it all after this to get.
Before you do that, wait. We need to talk to Stan about the security implications of that. So hold up.
Okay.
Hold up. Pause. Bookmark that. Keep going. But let's talk about that in a minute. Go for it. Keep going, Falcor.
Yeah. So the security implications of
let's not talk about the security implications yet. I'm just saying keep talking about what you're talking about. And
okay.
Us talking about the security implications of downloading OpenClaw later.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I get what you mean. Yeah, so it's crazy. I mean, I've been seeing even people getting MacBook Minis and upselling them by like 1,000% with like fully configured Clawbots and things like that on it. And it's almost like everybody was waiting for OpenAI to release a kind of desktop application that would be able to do all of these things, right? Obviously, they released Atlas, but it didn't really do what most people wanted. This developer has come out and released kind of a fully customizable puzzle piece local AI agent. I wouldn't even call him an agent, an AI operating system that can run your life and do absolutely everything for you. And it's something that it's kind of scary, right? You know, that you, to your point, Jack, from a security point of view, is like giving over all of your information and things like that. But have you guys tried out Clawbot yet? Or have you seen anything kind of interesting that's come out?
Let me tell you why I haven't yet, is because I'm worried about downloading this to your. I also saw a bunch of posts that you're basically giving this thing God access over your computer. It can just do whatever the hell it wants. And like, if you work for a company, if you're, like, hey, guess what, Ben? It could be like, let's say it just goes off the rails and gets pissed at all the humans. Next thing you know, it's logged into Twitter through the Scale account and shit posting, right? And then going back, I totally got my human on that one. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but let's say somebody else overtook that system. You're giving it God access to your computer. So I want to try it, but I want to try it on just like a totally blank computer that is not connected or logged into any other, system that I run. So I'm just curious, Stan, are there security risks for this right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I wouldn't recommend any of my friends to use it on their real data. I mean, there was this experiment done in London many years ago. There was a guy like waiting for people who were just like in the subway, and the guy was offering them a pen, like just a nice looking like souvenir pen. And in return, the guy was asking for all of their like social security numbers, whatever, like name, anything. And most people couldn't care less. Most people actually don't really care about their private information. That's the reality. So I understand that like why it went viral, but it's actually not using, it's using Claude or it's using ChatGPT. So it's pushing all of this data to ChatGPT anyway. But the problem is that it has not been security audited. And essentially, it's not a developer may be bad, but it's just a beta software. And I strongly not recommend anyone running it on their own data. And that maybe end up, I think in reality, it's a great thing, but it's probably something which will end up being produced by Google. I would actually, if I ever use anything like that, I would use the one that if the Google Gemini comes up with a version, I would definitely use it. And not it's just the security risks are incredible, right? You're basically giving it access to all of your data.
Like one of my old old computer I haven't used in 3 years or something, like just completely wiping that thing. But then the thing is, how do you make sure you got to make sure it's totally wiped, like
right.
This, and it's also a pain in the ass with Apple products, because then it's like you can't log in without your Apple ID. I'm like, no, I just want to be in a I want a clean computer for my agent to use. Seriously, you go buy a Chromebook or something.
But then would you trust that entity having access to your home Wi-Fi, right? Like you can do nefarious things to other.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you have to run it yourself, like on whatever. There's so many things that it's probably, it's probably like most people already have their data like on Google, like Google Drive or Google Docs, right? Many companies have data on Google Drive and Google Docs. It's already trusted to Google. So, and these guys will probably end up being acquired by Google. And this is something for Google to do. You need to have like security and like enterprise level people looking into this stuff. So it's not going to end up being open source, I think, forever. That's my thing.
So if tonight Scale Network starts tweeting some interesting things, it isn't actually us. It is the Claude bot that has taken over and gone rogue. Which Well, do you know what would be interesting is if you took if you created an intranet, right, an internal internet that you connected 4 different, could you kind of model society? This is really deep. I apologize. Could you kind of model society if you were to put 5 separate different Claude bots with a resource knowledge and just see how it plays out, right? See how they then attack different situations, whether it's, personal or business related or things like that.
So hey, let's get some last summarized thoughts on this and let's move on. I'm going to give you guys my kind of my last take. This to me was like a monumental shift for a lot of people just to see what AI can do. Now you peel it back. Okay. Like we talked about, it's the exact same uniform UI pretty much interacting. It'd be cool if you could hit a button and create different personalities for your Clawbot that then make them actually completely act different. Right. But it's just V1. And so to me, the cool thing is just the way tech works, you don't understand what's possible sometimes until it hits you in the face. Before Facebook came out and people were talking about, no way people's mind were even ready for that. It was technically ready for a long time, but you weren't ready to post all this stuff about your life and your pictures of yourself online. I remember my friend set up a profile. I was like, what the hell are you doing? You're putting a picture of yourself out there and you're talking to people. This is nuts. And then he's like, yeah, but all the girls are here and you can meet girls. I was like, oh, okay. How do I get an account? But I didn't realize the power of social media. And I think our little human brains are not ready for innovation sometimes till we see it. And this could be the start of something really big. So that's my take.
Yeah, the same. I think that what's gonna happen. This guy's probably gonna basically become a company, and then they're gonna have the security and everything. And remember, WhatsApp, it was pretty much the same story. There was no cross-platform application for messaging on iPhone and Android, and WhatsApp just played this game. And very much the same here, because Google, Telegram, whatever, ChatGPT, none of them could have developed that, because this thing kind of puts everything together. And it's kind of a glue which glues all of these huge companies together. And for Google to release a platform that works well with Telegram is not the highest priority. And that's one of the reasons I think these guys were successful, because they're incredibly neutral. And now they're probably going to get lots of funding and make it secure. And then the question is, are they going to stay in the case of WhatsApp? WhatsApp ended up being acquired by Google. Oh, sorry, by Facebook. Yeah, and it may be the same thing here, is that these guys may actually end up acquired by one of these big guys.
Yeah, by the way, sidebar on that, I was at a dinner last week, and Google's head of corp dev, who's no longer there, but he did all the big acquisitions at Google. And he had this funny story. They were talking, I think he did YouTube, Firebase, a ton of their big acquisitions. He also said, hey, Google's, look how big Google is, but the only products we created internally are search, Gmail, and they were I forget what, there's only 4 or 5 that they actually created in-house. Everything else was brought in through acquisition and integrated really well. And this guy did it. He said, he had this story. He said, you know what? I tried to buy WhatsApp for it was 180 million. And everyone's like, oh no, these, this is just a fad. This thing's no, they don't have any technology advantage. And he's like, no, they do. And then next, it was something 6 or 12 months later, they got bought for $1 billion by Facebook. Yeah. It was pretty wild. And a brilliant move by Facebook, because, brilliant strategic move.
They made so much money. Yeah. And the same for YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube was, that must have been the greatest acquisition of all time, right? It's incredible. And I think it's, Facebook definitely got a good deal there. If I'm not mistaken, WhatsApp is the 3rd most downloaded app in the world. It's not massive in the US, which confuses me, but I think that's because of the iOS Messenger, and you guys are predominantly iOS, while the rest of the world is more kind of 50-50. It's absolutely incredible. It's when are we going to get a new messaging app? All on Byte, all encrypted through the blockchain. How about that?
Yeah.
All I need is another messaging app.
More.
6 or 7 to manage. If I get one more, I will be a happy camper.
The fact that somebody hasn't actually built a application to just have all of your apps together is still just mind-blowing.
They try, but think about it. That's your defense. If no one has to log into your interface anymore, you get disintermediated, right?
True.
And I mean, in a way, it could be if you acquire a bunch of messengers, you could do that. But but the reality is it's not in their best interest to share, to lose your front end. You speak smart, business mind, and I'm out here user mind, just an application where I can see Twitter, Discord, Telegram, and emails, and I can just live on that one window for the rest of time. I would be very happy. That's what an agent could do, though. If an agent can auth in for you and you trust it, it actually brings to you all the relevant things you need to look at in one interface. Because it's not necessarily just API calls. It's something that's taking information, contextualizing it, packaging it, putting it in a different interface, in a different model. But then, hey, who knows? Maybe they sue the agent company. You can't use our data for this. And it's there's going to be new legal terrain. What can an agent do that a person can't do? Because there are a lot of services, if you don't allow agents to log in, you're going to lose business. So eventually, guess what? You're going to have to give agents the same level of access as humans, or you're going to lose users if people want to use agents to manage products, manage things they do.
Do you think we would get into a world, because we've been talking on Scale School, right, a lot about facilitators and merchants and things like that, and 3 months ago it seemed like you would have one agent that would go and do everything for you. But I mean, as time has gone on, it has seemed more like you're going to be having a fleet of agents all doing different things. Do you think we would get in a point where the likes of Facebook or Twitter or Discord, are going to have their own facilitator agents, right, that can do the tasks without giving away, material information or extremely kind of like things you just don't want out there in the public? And it's just this like AI to AI, almost like API calls, but a lot more kind of structured in request.
Let me ask that in a much more compact way, and I want Stan to answer this. So Stan, in the future, are we all going to have like an agent we use that's just from one company, or is one company going to have lots of different agents we could use for different purposes? What is like, because a lot of this goes back to the technology of like, okay, like how can an agent be successful? Part of it, it's like user experience, but yeah, just keep that really tight, Stan. Let's start there and then go further. Like, how's that going to work?
Yeah, I think if you actually, just from the point of view of efficiency, this thing tend to like centralize in a sense that, you don't want to use agents from different companies. So if there is nothing which by default, the force is going to be, people will very much like a browser, whatever. People will use the same thing, which is, I think, is going to be Google. And then the question is how it's going to be really hard. It's going to probably take some maybe law, whatever, to have competitors, because I think it's for most consumers, it's going to play very much the same thing as browser, like mail. Kind of centralizes. It's almost unavoidable. So, which I think someone will need to manage Google that they're not evil, but most people will be okay, I think.
So let me like kind of say this in a different way. If I hear that, what that tells me is, guess who's going to have agents? Like agents are the interface. Like if WhatsApp like let you use a different product to access it, no, they don't. They want you to use WhatsApp. And I think who are the agents? Well, they're effective. If you're going to have some agent that works for you, like some claw, it's going to come from ChatGPT, Google, and Throb. It's going to come from one that, and then it makes you wonder, like, well, then are there businesses people can run just to kind of tailor those agents? And you have like this agent like app store where like, oh, like let me peruse the agent store to see which agent I want to buy. I want the one that's really geeked up for this or that. Or it's all the same back end. Your agent can do anything, and you're just kind of like designing a personality for it and like a look. I don't know.
I'm thinking, just coming back to this patchwork that I discussed, that LLM is a patchwork. I think for consumer, there will be like, like the consumer thing, and there will be niche markets. And there will be lots of niche markets where Google won't want to go into. Google is like, like a 4 trillion, I forgot how many trillion company. So they don't do anything which doesn't move the needle for them. So I would say, like if the market is less than $10 billion, Google won't go into this. So you'll see this like markets for vertical AI, which is gonna be people actually specializing AI in different things. But then after above, if it's like to get noticed by Google, then you're dead or acquired.
So Stan, how is this going to work? Like, let's connect this back. There's a lot of people. We got a lot of people listening here who they're like, okay, well, how's this going to impact me? Let's talk about work. Are people going to have an agent that they use that help them do all their work in their personal life, or is it going to be only your company? I work for Salesforce.com, or I work for, whatever company in Ohio or wherever. And can I only use the agent that my IT group approved for me to use? And then is my agent ratting me out to the company? Or I think people would rather have their own agent that they, that can work with them across different jobs. But I don't know if companies would allow that, or if they'd be able to stop. What does that look like?
But this is coming back to the the research that we are doing here, like at Scale Labs. We are trying to understand how to customize AI, and I discussed the thing about like patchwork. That the neural network is not a brain; it's a patchwork of pieces. You can easily customize ChatGPT. ChatGPT, you need to look into it as not as a brain, but it's a set of Lego pieces that could be used to build different brains almost like instantly. So what you will see there's something that I call like vibe code or pseudocode. Basically, you can take, I've tried several things like here, like just to play with ChatGPT. You can actually on the fly using this vibe code or pseudocode tell ChatGPT how to glue these neural networks together in different ways. So you're kind of on the fly forming a brain, and you're asking a question from this brain. So I think that that's what's going to happen, is that there will be this kind of vibe code or pseudocode layers where inside of Bank of America, they will have their own vibe code, which will be used in conjunction with ChatGPT, and then it will serve their purpose. It will talk to customers, this type of stuff. And I think definitely enterprises will have their own things in this way. There will be ChatGPT, but ChatGPT is just a Lego. So you can do incredible things. You can do almost anything with ChatGPT. You can pass it. Just to give you an example, you can take a cutting edge AI paper and you pass the source, the PDF of the paper to ChatGPT, and you tell it, behave like this, and it will run as it is kind of self-upgrade and run way more efficiently. So it's a kind of a set of Lego pieces, and that creates incredible amount of opportunities for startups. But people need to understand it's a piece of Lego blocks. It's not a single brain.
Yeah.
That's what excites me.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like access. And here's what I don't really get is like, right now, your IT department, if you want to use a different CRM system, you want to use a different tool, if you want to use a product that touches company data, it has to be approved by your company. And if you don't, guess what? They're going to see that instantly. There's all these products they have to snoop that and make sure like nothing, you're not pulling company data somewhere else. Like, so I just wonder, like, are agents going to be so smart and be able to like, interact with company software that you don't need your company's approval? And are the companies going to have rights to stop you from using your agent? There's a whole new frontier. I personally think like companies, there's going to be enterprise software where you're like have approved agents, because your agent's going to have to access company data, and they're not going to let you do that unless, they don't want some like we talked about earlier. Do you want Clawbot today to have access to all your personal shit? No.
I can give you a great example here, because I was talking to my friend in the RAF, which is Royal Air Force out here in the UK, discussing AI agents and things like that. And the Ministry of Department has approved one AI software. Can you guess which it is? Microsoft Copilot.
Oh yeah, I've heard. Yeah,
because it is the quote unquote most secure AI agent there. AI platform there is.
Huge DOJ, like Department of Justice, I think is one of the Microsoft's biggest.
Yeah,
customers. It just makes sense, right? They're already like. And I did a deal once with NASA, and I can't tell you how long just getting approved as a vendor took. We eventually had to subcontract on the deal because you just can't, as a startup, get any access to sell the government anything. You got to do it through somebody, and they take a big rake of everything you sell the government. It's kind of a, so.
It's surprising Slack hasn't implemented a more comprehensive AI kind of chat system, right? Like I would argue Slack is probably Slack or Teams, right? It's one of those two that most large businesses use, but Slack AI is not up to par with even that of Microsoft Copilot, and Microsoft Copilot is not exactly good either. It's surprising that they're so kind of far behind. that being said, going back to Stan's point on, Patchworks, I can go to ChatGPT right now and link up Slack, Google Drive, and everything and get ChatGPT to run through it all. I think I'll get yelled at by Sawyer if I did that from a security point of view, but we could, so it is crazy. And I think to kind of go back to that original question, that is what we're going to have. We're going to have these kind of pre-approved, quote unquote, AI engines that are almost like search engines that are approved by businesses, applications, and things like that you're going to be able to use. But at what point is cost going to come into it, right? How much is ChatGPT going to charge you for integration?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. But
hey, let's connect this. Let's put a period on the end of this sentence. But let's just connect this back to crypto. People in our community, they always how come you guys aren't talking about scale all the time? Well, because we're talking about lots of stuff, but usually the stuff we talk about is very related. For me, when I saw all of this happening, this whole agent market just got way more real to me. If your agent can make fun of you for how you're telling it to make it shorter, I already did all this work for you. Your agent's going to be able to buy stuff for you. And guess what? The most clean, simple way to do that is crypto. And the other thing is it removes the chicken and egg problem. If you're oh, I need to get some crypto to do this, you're how in the hell do I do it? If your agent has access to your credit card, it can get you crypto. It can get you stable coins really quickly. It could bridge over to scale on base really easily. You remove all this UX friction. And that to me is we're at the precipice here. Crypto, i.e. and money transfers, crypto rails, blockchains are inherently just connected to the future of AI because programmable money and programmable intelligence, need each other. What do you think, Stan? Last thought on that?
I think for me, actually, today, this morning, hearing about this application, OpenClaw, and the going viral and the agents, actually made me much more optimistic about X402 because this OpenClaw, right, when you run it, basically it can use your Gmail, but it can't actually do any payments for you. Actually, I would like I get a utility bill. Usually people send me utility bill in email, and I just kind of go and pay the utility bill. But my bank, it's impossible to access it because it actually checks me being human. It sends me an SMS message. It is this captcha. So there's no way my bank is going to allow OpenClaw in the next 20 years to access. And that's where the only thing for OpenClaw to be able to pay next 5 years, to have some type of universal payments, the only way to do it is actually X402. Because there's no banks are incredibly unhappy about letting programmatic access to their sending money. So how can OpenClaw kind of can send money through desktop UI, moving mouse, but the bank will actually check you if it's human, send an SMS message. So it's not going to work at all, I think. So the only way for OpenClaw, for agents to pay utility bills is going to be X402. So maybe we may actually at some point get a hockey stick moment. These agents just paying just because of them having no other way to pay at all, because everything else requires a human.
Yep.
Yeah. And where are they going to do this paying? Because according to Vitalik, L2s, they are not the future.
Yes, great segue.
So it's a very, very long post. I'm not going to go through it all. But these are the kind of the main points, right? The original L2 vision is outdated. With L1 gas limits rising and gas prices lowering, Ethereum, quote unquote, can now scale itself. A lot of L2s never wanted to go beyond their initial kind of we are a cheaper Ethereum messaging, right? So they're not really bringing a huge amount to the table. It's an interesting message. I mean, what were your guys' first thoughts when you saw it?
I mean, I think let's give the little history lesson here. Stan and I were like, Scale was like one of the original L2s. And then through this like kind of like Vitalik, and it was like nepotism, but with your friends instead of your family. It was like everybody kind of like who was in this like club then became the roll-up club. And then we were the L2, like, you know, hey, you're like, you're a side chain. Like, no, we're like integrated with Ethereum. We run these like decentralized blockchains that have their own autonomy, but they inherit all these security properties from Ethereum. We had a different model that we think could have scaled Ethereum even better and brought more economic value to Ethereum. Anyways, there's this whole history. And then Stan was probably the most vocal, saying these rollups are, you know, it's going to cost on decentralization. It's going to extract value from Ethereum, all the things that now why Vitalik's changing direction. But it just, so in a way, I kind of feel like Stan and I probably have this I told you so feeling, but we did tell people, and then finally they came around. So in a way, I felt a little bit like vindicated, like, okay, you know, but at the same time, I'm like, come on, guys, the writing's been on the wall. What do you think, Stan?
I think first, this is the most important tweet probably of Vitalik in his entire life so far, because you guys are welcome to read it. I can just tell you what it is. Basically, Vitalik is kind of going through the existential crisis. And the problem is that Ethereum Foundation doesn't have much money anymore. And the network is not getting used. You know, the prices went down to like less than 1 cent per transaction, and it's not good because it just shows that people don't use the network much. And the mistake I think which was made is that Vitalik had this vision that of this he did not like. The mistake he made like 5 years ago, he did not like, and he did not want independent blockchain, basically connecting to Ethereum and forming layer 2. Mm-hmm. So he didn't want a layer 2 of independent blockchains because of, I think it was like, you know, like, let's keep all together in our thing, don't let others guys, which was totally opposite to what Linus Torvalds did with Linux, where there's kernel and then Linus Torvalds doesn't give a fuck what other people do, doesn't tell them what to do. That was the Linux approach. And Vitalik's approach was control. It was a good intention, but actually, you know, he wanted the control. And as a result of that, these rollups, he allowed these rollups that are single computers. And he said, okay, it's better for these guys to be single computers initially, but we'll keep the control. There are guys, they are part of Ethereum, and we keep the control, and later we're going to decentralize them. And now he understood there's no way he can decentralize them because he lost power. He now created these guys, the single computers, which will have way more money and power than him. He can't control them. And he said, okay, I'm going to decentralize. I'm going to like basically punish them. I'm going to tell people during my talks and conferences, these guys are not decentralized. I'm not going to mention them. But it's a little bit naive. And so now he is kind of, I think he specifically mentions Linux. Now he's going the Linux way, which I think he does the right thing, but it's more like, okay, let's get the 1% of true believers that believe in decentralization. And now he admits, now he says, like the Chinese leaders, you know, doesn't matter what is the color of the cow if it produces milk. Now, let's all flowers bloom. Now he admits a very simple thing, that layer 2 just means something which is below level layer 1. And it's actually great that layer 2 is composed of independent blockchains. I mean, it was a trivial thing, but the reason why he didn't want to do it was to keep control. But now the control is lost anyway. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's interesting. But I think it's something that can actually get him to become a better leader, because he learned his mistake. I mean, that's why the positive thing about the tweet, I think he'll become a better leader. he realized things. If he wants to go like the way Linus Torvalds does, I mean, that's fantastic, I think. So it's his existential crisis, definitely, but it can lead to something really great for Ethereum.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question then. You know, the layer 2s or layer 3s that have seen these posts, you know, do they have the capabilities now to just like up and leave, you know, like or are they stuck kind of with a person that looks down on them?
The layer ones, whatever, the ones that won, I don't want to mention them, but basically, I'm not blaming them in any sense. You know, they are corporations. They're running single computers. These computers are great. I don't think they're blockchains. I mean, for me, a blockchain is something decentralized, but I don't really. People use them. But the point is that let's be honest. For these guys, the only reason of them claiming blockchains is just they don't need to like pass KYC AML. If you can run a single computer in such a way that you don't need to do KYC AML, why it's like perfect thing because you don't pay anyone, right? Like there's no like validators or anything. You're running the thing. It's like a legal loophole. Essentially, the result of this was that unfortunately, Ethereum Foundation, by approving all of these things, created this legal loophole where you can run a centralized things and then still be deemed legally decentralized. So I don't know. I mean,
So that's interesting.
Let me add to that real quick. Sorry, Falcor, but
yeah, no, go on.
So when this whole premise of rollups came in, like Stan and I were like, hold on, like let's just make this really simple at first. Like you just want to run Amazon or Google Cloud and run Ethereum there. And then you're going to integrate some cryptography to make sure that things eventually, you basically run things. They call it a sequencer where you order transactions, but for all intents and purposes, they're just running blockchain software. And their one computer then is in charge of ordering the transactions, okay? And like pushing them through. And then what they do is they say, hey, like we're going to take this fingerprint. So instead of having all the data, we're just going to take a lighter version and we're going to roll up all this information in a very like minuscule way. And then we're going to put it on the mainnet. And when that's done, it's done. What that does is like really kind of destroys the latency. It makes then this thing, if they're bad, then you can like hit pause and try to go back 7 days and all this. There are all these like weird rules they put in. But for us, it didn't make sense because like, hold on, this isn't the spirit of Ethereum to have somebody run a server and make money off of all the fees. And if you look at all the money Arbitrum makes and ZK makes and ZK Sync and all the money Optimism makes, they're making like, that's not the spirit of Ethereum. The spirit of Ethereum is that the people that make money are these people that set up computers in their home or in their data centers or their DevOps groups of your company. You make money that way by collectively running something that requires a 2/3 agreement, i.e. consensus on information. And like, it just didn't make sense. And so now Vitalik's saying, hey, like this thing isn't working. Let's do base rollups. So we basically have rollups like integrated into the system. And you try to do a layer 1 with like an integrated kind of parsing and where you keep economic value capture, but you make sure the thing doesn't get broken. Because right now, guess what happened? Like the original view of L2s was all the value stayed on Ethereum. And you'd go over there, you'd just be interacting and like making things happen. But then all the value settled back to Ethereum. Maybe Ethereum's still getting 10, 15 cents a transaction. And it was off because we knew you had to be at like a fraction of a cent to be competitive in a few years, which ended up being the truth. So what happened was these L2s started minting all their own assets on the L2. All the value started leaving Ethereum, going over there. And it ended up becoming like a vampire attack on Ethereum, the L2 market, which Stan and I were telling people for a long time, hey, like, yeah, these things are going to work, but you know, then you're fully trusting the entity. Hey, people trust Coinbase and Binance already. So if you're okay with that, you're okay with that. But let's call a spade, that it's not a decentralized system in the same way a blockchain is.
So these chains aren't multitude of different validators that are validating transactions and things like that.
That was the goal, is like eventually to have decentralized sequencers where you could come and run a node on Optimism, you could run a node on Arbitrum, and run all these different people running all these nodes that then agree in the other environment, but then you still have all these security and trust assumptions, finalization back to mainnet. But then they realized if you do that, it's too slow, it's too expensive. You can't compete with Solana when you do that. You can't compete with Scale, who's also giving value, rev share back to Ethereum, unlike other L1s. But
I think Anatoly from Solana, he tweeted yesterday. I fully agree with him. He was actually, from the beginning, I think, telling the same stuff. It's basically not gonna work, and the only way you can build a decentralized sequencer is to use a blockchain as a decentralized sequencer. So the entire idea from the beginning had absolutely no point, because if you decentralize a single computer, you get a blockchain. And so, unfortunately, again, there was also, I think, money involved. So the decisions there were some insiders, I think, who don't actually work for Ethereum Foundation anymore. And some people made money, which is, it's okay for me, but it just all got screwed up, because now what we have Ethereum network running at less than 1 cent per transaction. There's no applications. You have these huge companies. I love all of them. They control the entire thing now. So we are like, basically, you can take it like in Star Wars, the Empire. They're good people, but the startups that tried, many of them died. There's no startups now. It's as I said, it's an existential moment for Vitalik, because in this desert, he said once that he wants to be a high priest. But how do you preach in a desert? That's the problem, and I think he does have this crisis.
Yeah, I saw someone have a post that says "Taxi L2s to the moon."
Yeah,
the L2s, like, and hey, ecosystems like Base, I think, are going to keep being really successful. You're going to see this consolidation, but they're going to end up competing with Ethereum, and Ethereum's going to, at some point, or how, they're going to push. They're going to just try to make things give as less value as possible back to Ethereum. And, it's a weird environment. I think where Scale is, frankly, is a great place to be, because we've said, hey, we're taking this path that's for the user first. And, we're not compromising security or decentralization. And, hey, we can deploy this now on these L2s. We can deploy it on Ethereum. We can deploy it on other L1s with Scale Expand. Yeah, but if you're as an ETH holder, you better be really worried about the economic value capture. And right now, there's a siphon. There's a little hole in your bucket. You're walking home, you fill up this thing full of water. You get home and you find there's no water because there's a hole. Like, you're leaking value.
Does Ethereum have the?
And just to add really quickly, Ben, actually, the funny thing is that basically the market is like dead. Everyone is like unhappy and depressed. But the good thing about Scale is that through all of this shit, basically, we are the only ones that have like a network of blockchains. So the funny thing is that now Vitalik tweeted this thing. There's no one except us who's going to respond to his tweet. And there's only us, and we're a tiny project. There's no one else. I mean, if at some point this like X402 payments take like place, the only thing is Scale, because as I said, there's like a desert of failed startups now because of all of these things, right? So
you
had it here first. Future is to Scale, on Scale.
Yeah.
And let's just say, I'm even more bullish on Ethereum now. And I think, Scale still has Scale on Ethereum, has Scale and Base, but it's, because Vitalik's basically, it's hard when you pick a direction and your best friends run these companies that you're partnering with, and your biggest partners are these L2s. And all of a sudden you're like, we're not doing that anymore. It was a tough call for him to do that. It was a brave call, but it's, hopefully it's not too little too late. I don't think it will be. And I said this the other day, I had a post where this whole scaling wars is one thing, but who's going to win? Like, I think the market speaking and crypto, like broadly, not just in crypto, but across, SaaS, tech stocks, et cetera, value is accruing to AI. And who's going to win in crypto is like, who wins this agent battle? Who's going to, Andreessen think it's going to be a $30 trillion market in 4 years, this like agent economy. Jesus. And crypto right now is only a fraction of that. So if that's the case, if you're helping move that money around in value, that's who's going to win big in the next battle. So it's almost like a reset. You might be down now, behind, whatever, but like who's going to get ahead? And you can get ahead quickly in this new world.
Do you think we're finally moving away from this idea of, quick gains and meme coins and things like that, and finally moving over to where we want it to be, which is about the technology?
I hope so. I hope it starts coming into more execution. And that's the thing, like markets ultimately will determine that, because markets reward, like who would you rather be right or rich? Somebody said once, or wrong and poor. And like, the reality is you could have been right. Like I told my friend a long time ago, oh yeah, don't buy Dogecoin. It's crap. There's nothing behind it. It's just a meme. And the guy lost a lot of money. He shouldn't have listened to me. Maybe I was right that it didn't do anything, but I was wrong from the perspective of the way markets speak. Yeah. And the thing is, I think markets are telling us that they're going to start accruing value into protocols that capture value, and capture revenue, capture users, capture transactions, and tokens that capture value. Like right now, you can put all this effort in your token economics and your token economic value capture for all the different participants in a network. But if the market doesn't even care to learn about that, and they're just trading on the meme, that doesn't matter. So I think that part is like dwindling and compressing. And Stan knows this. The same thing happened in the late 90s in tech. And this huge, it didn't matter your fundamentals, didn't matter anything. All of a sudden, everyone was public. But guess what? There was this mass deletion of companies and stocks if you didn't end up capturing revenue. And everyone was like, revenue. And I think we're going to have a moment like that. And, hey, that's one of the reasons why Scale is a project. We're saying, let's go focus on agents. This is where the growth is. It's not financial advice. We have a ton of work to do. We've got to execute. Awesome that, hey, we've got the Coinbase and Google teamed up with Scale and a couple of our other partners to go and do a hackathon as well, virtuals and Edge and Node. So that's going to be exciting.
Pairpoint by Vodafone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And Pairpoint by Vodafone. We've got some really kick-ass partners there, but things like that, I think where you're going to make ground with agents. I hope we have some claws try to participate in that hackathon.
That would be fun. Actually, we should. Oh, it'll be a good one. What are you saying, Stan?
We need. I think all of the agent stuff is great for us, because the moment agents start using blockchain, the moment there's one single use case for agents using blockchain, there will be zillions of transactions. So the moment this happens, we're going to be the only network that's going to support it. It's going to be, you will not be able to count how many transactions, like look at this, the social network this morning, right? Like how many messages, this guy's how many agents you can run. The same will happen on blockchain. The moment agents start using it, there's no one else. As I said, it's like a desert. There's nothing. So the moment this happens, we're going to benefit a lot, I believe. And I don't know when, but it may be tomorrow. Like we woke up tomorrow and we got the social network, right? These hockey sticks are crazy. They happened one day.
Right now, let's just call a spade a spade. Most of the agent activity in crypto are agents trading meme coins. That's circular reference still. When we get to the point where agents are actually buying software products on behalf of their human counterparts and buying commercial goods, etc., doing things with crypto that are not they're in a growth area, that's when we're going to see a lot of growth. And that's why, hey, you look at crypto still, it's not capturing the AI boom because it hasn't crossed the chasm. And that's, a lot of smart people are working on it. And big companies like Google, Coinbase are going full steam into this thing. It's exciting.
100%. Guys,
Okay.
it's been a pleasure. This has been an awesome episode.
Cool.
We went through Epstein to Vitalik and everything in between. We love these. We love doing these. Super fun. Jack?
Well, I got to say, we're going to have to check up in a week from now what's going on with this whole claw thing. Like, is it going to be dead news, or is it going to go even next levels beyond? It'll be really, really exciting to see.
100%.
Yeah.
Stan, anything further from you?
I mean, I can say things are actually moving really fast. And this morning, pretty much the entire engineering team is excited about open claw. We discussed this over the lunch. Now we have a question: how can you use scale from open claw? So this seems to be one of big moments in our industry. This open claw thing. This may be one of the pivotal moments, I think, because you have suddenly so many agents. It's going to be historic. I think people may actually look into this 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and say, well, that's where the agents went in huge numbers through this open claw. And this may be one of the historic moments today.
Yeah. History starts now. Guys, as always, love hanging out, love talking. Been a great episode. And Jack, we won't see you next week because we join us for the hackathon.
Well, then we're going to have to change the date. Why don't we do it on Tuesday?
We're going to do it on Thursday because we have a very special Gale School on Tuesday. Can we do Thursday?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Thursday. Yeah, let's not skip. There's just too much happening every week. We got to keep going.
Too much. And thank you guys all so much for joining us, listening to us ramble and think and talk, and maybe one day we'll argue. We should argue at some point.
One thing I got to say is if you're listening and there's something you want us to talk about, if you say, hey, what do you guys think about this? Put it in the comments. Okay. We'll read it.
On Twitter.
Okay.
Definitely. Let us know. All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next Thursday. Goodbye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.